What does it mean when family aspirations turn into courtroom contests? What does it mean when the land that was supposed to bring together becomes the land that separates? That is the tale of Coyote Pass. For over a decade, Sister Wives viewers have been following Kody Brown as he pursued grand aspirations. Some were romantic in nature, others familial, and some the lifestyle he felt so strongly about, plural marriage. But of all his most aspirational dreams, perhaps the most symbolic was Coyote Pass in Flagstaff, Arizona. When the Browns purchased this property, Kody envisioned it as their future, not just dirt and trees. To him it was a legacy, a family compound in which he and his 4 wives, Meri, Janelle, Kody and Robyn, would build their homes adjacent to one another. Their kids would live close by, cousins would be friends, and the Browns would have a lasting legacy for generations. At least that was the image Kody marketed to his wives and kids. But the reality has been anything but that fantasy. Rather than a unifying spot, Coyote Pass became an emblem of disunity. Rather than laughter and new homes, it became a source of distrust shattered, promises dissolved, and money issues accumulated. Let's stop here, because this is significant. Fans who have been watching the Brown family for years understand that their saga has always been about something more than TV. It's about the conflict between dreams and reality. And nowhere is that conflict more evident than at Coyote Pass. Picture this. In 2018, the Browns left Las Vegas in the dust. They desired a do-over, an opportunity to start anew. And what better way to accomplish that than by purchasing a huge tract of land in Arizona? To Kody, it was the solution. He could create his one big family utopia. The wives were instructed they'd each have their own plot, somewhere to finally lay roots. But while the land sat untouched, the family's problems grew. Kody was already feeling overlooked and unappreciated. Janelle, always practical, wondered how they could even afford to build houses when finances were so tight. Meri, distant and heartbroken after years of struggles with Kody, questioned her place in the family. And Robyn, the newest wife, seemed to have Kody's full attention, sparking resentment in the others. So the land, which was intended to signify hope, was something else, a never-ending reminder of what was not taking place. No houses were constructed. No development was made. Rather, the Browns quarreled over money, loans, and how the land would be divided. Its fans could see it too. Each time the show broadcast another conversation about Coyote Pass, you could sense the tension. In place of excitement was skepticism. In place of cooperation, mistrust. And as the years passed, it seemed increasingly obvious. The land wasn't uniting them. It was driving them apart. When Kody finally left Kody in 2021, she wasn't walking out of a marriage. She was walking out of Coyote Pass altogether. To her, that property no longer held the promise of a future. It held the promise of broken commitments. She gathered her belongings, took her youngest child, and left behind Arizona. And that's when the storm really began to brew. Because here's the kicker, Coyote Pass isn't just emotional, it's monetary. The property is valued at millions. It's divided into multiple parcels, and each wife has her name associated with some of it. So when the family disintegrated, the question on everyone's mind was, who gets what? Now we're talking lawyers, deeds, and legal filings. We're talking about Kody, once the proud husband of 4, now sitting across from ex-wives who are no longer asking, they're demanding their fair share. For Kody, this land remains the dream. He holds on to it. He speaks of it as if it is the family legacy. The irony is biting though. The more he holds on, the more it seems to remind everyone else about how the family collapsed. And then there's Robyn, his sole remaining wife. She might not have requested this battle, but since she's the remaining legal partner, her place is more powerful than the others. That alone creates even more drama, particularly with Janelle and Meri, who invested in the property but no longer have a marriage to Kody. The most shocking part, on camera, Kody once admitted that he considered cutting Janelle out of her share of Coyote Pass completely. He actually thought about it. His words were, "I've thought about screwing her over." The only reason he didn't, Robyn talked him out of it. That admission was like pouring gasoline on a fire that was already ablaze. Fans were shocked, wives were outraged, and it left one thing clear. The furor over Coyote Pass wasn't just simmering, it had arrived. So here we are now. A parcel of land that was once a symbol of togetherness is today at the center of a court battle. A man who had once appeared before 4 wives now appears in court to defend commitments he was unable to fulfill. And 3 women who had once envisioned the dream are today battling for what they feel they deserve. Coyote Pass is no longer simply property. It's evidence. Evidence of shattered trust. Evidence of favoritism. Evidence of a once whole family now broken. To truly understand the storm at Coyote Pass, we need to turn back the clock. It was the year 2018, and the Browns were at a crossroads. Their Las Vegas existence had come to a breaking point. What had originally been intended as stability, 4 houses tidily in a row in a cul-de-sac, had gradually become something that felt broken. The family wasn't as cohesive as it had once been. The older children were leaving, the wives were independent, and Kody himself was restless. Thus he devised what he thought was the solution: a clean start in Flagstaff, Arizona. The Browns packed their lives, departed from the desert sheen of Las Vegas, and settled into rented houses scattered throughout Flagstaff City. And with that relocation came the major acquisition: a large tract of land set against the scenery of the Arizona mountains. This land would eventually become Coyote Pass. In the beginning, it sounded like the fairy tale sort of notion Kody enjoyed telling. The land wasn't mere property. It was a dream, divided into several plots. One day it would shelter his wives and kids. Each wife would have her own home, constructed on her own land, but they'd be neighbors. The children would play across fields to see each other. Cousins would grow up together. Holidays would be celebrated together, not separately. Kody would discuss it with near a twinkle in his eye. Coyote Pass wasn't a development proposal to him. It was legacy. It was evidence that his plural family could succeed when the world otherwise told them they couldn't. He wanted to make a family compound, something permanent that connected them all. And initially, the wives had gone along. After all, the Browns had always relocated for greener pastures. In Utah, in Las Vegas, and now in Flagstaff. Moving wasn't the norm. It was practically part of their narrative. But something was wrong. From the beginning, fissures had formed. For one thing, funds were already stretched thin. Purchasing such a huge tract of land was ambitious, perhaps even reckless, given their funds were stretched to the limit. Constructing several homes? That would mean loans, building expenses, and years of planning. And still, the Browns leapt in, thinking they could make it work. Except they didn't. The land remained empty. No homes, no buildings, just open space, with a promise floating in the air. The wives began to see. What was the use in purchasing land if they couldn't occupy it? Years went by, and the vision of settling into their forever houses on Coyote Pass grew increasingly distant. And as the land sat empty, family feelings began to change. Christine, who always made a big point of demanding family closeness, was beginning to feel the pangs of disappointment. She didn't want instability for her children, but rather a dream that just didn't get any farther. Each time she gazed out at that land, she didn't see hope anymore. She saw a broken promise. Janelle, always practical and level-headed, was frustrated for other reasons. She really cared about the ground. She was a believer in the concept of developing there. But she was the most concerned about the money aspect. Janelle witnessed the bank statements, the setbacks, the hitches. She demanded action, not verbosity. To her, the ground wasn't a trap yet. But it soon would be, because without advancement, their money was simply invested in dirt they could not eat. And then there was Meri. Already by 2018, her marriage to Kody was on shaky ground. Years of distance, hurt and heartbreak had cost their relationship dearly. Coyote Pass was no longer really a dream for Meri. It was rather more like another rope keeping her bound to a family in which she didn't feel completely welcomed. Constructing a home there seemed like a symbol. Why construct something permanent when she was not even sure of her position in the family? At the same time, there was one wife's point of view that seemed different. Robyn, being his legal wife and the one with whom he spent the majority of his time, she appeared to capture more of his attention. To the other wives, Kody appeared to be investing more energy into Robyn's future than theirs. And whether or not this was actually the case, perception is reality. So picture this: 3 wives standing on the grounds of Coyote Pass, trapped, disregarded, or uncertain. One wife standing with Kody, seemingly his spouse in the fantasy. And Kody himself, holding on for dear life to this idea of togetherness, even as togetherness was slipping away from him. On the outside, it continued to appear as if a family was building something great. Fans could hear Kody discuss legacy and the future, but on the inside, things were quite different. The family was not closer. They were farther apart than ever, residing in various rental houses throughout Flagstaff. The children were not playing together in a giant neighborhood. They were coping with school, friends, and lengthy drives just to visit one another. And the land? Still vacant, still vacant, still a promise yet to be fulfilled. The dream of cohesion was gradually becoming a stress point. Why keep lands they had no use for? Why continue to pour hopes in a plan that would never progress? For Christine, it was like a trap. She desired freedom, not more false promises. For Janelle, it was like bad planning, a money-sucking pit that absorbed their funds. And for Meri, It was another reminder she was bound to a family where she was not loved. And through it all, Kody continued to push the vision, speak of it, cling to it. Because to him, giving up Coyote Pass wasn't merely about giving up property, it was about giving up the symbol of everything he believed his family had the potential to be. But sometimes symbols are burdens. Sometimes they are heavier than they are worth. And that is precisely what Coyote Pass was turning into. Not a dream, but a burden. By the time 2021 came along, the fissures within the Brown family were no longer the quiet rumblings in the background. They were center stage, playing out on screen and off. What had originally been touted as one man and four wives pulling together to live a distinct lifestyle was coming apart, brick by brick. And at its core, there were not only broken hearts, but broken promises, particularly the promise of Coyote Pass. Let's begin with Christine Brown. For years, Christine had been the smile wife, who kept the peace. She raised her kids with love, attempted to keep everything harmonious, and frequently sacrificed her own desires for the greater family dream. But behind that serene smile, Christine was struggling in silence. She had witnessed how Kody's attention began to veer increasingly toward Robyn, while her marriage became increasingly chilly and distant. By 2021, Christine had had enough. She had battled for her marriage. She had held on to hope for the Coyote Pass dream. But the reality was plain. The harmony Kody had promised was never going to materialize. And so, in one of the most dramatic turns the Sister Wives audience had ever witnessed, Christine declared that she was leaving Kody. Her revelation sent shockwaves throughout the family. Not only was she walking away from a 25-plus-year marriage, but also from the dream of developing on Coyote Pass. Christine made it abundantly clear she wanted nothing more to do with the fantasy. She packed her life, relocated to Utah, to be close to some of her adult children, and left the land controversy in the dust. Freedom meant more to her than square footage. But Christine's departure was just the start of things falling apart. Then came Janelle Brown. And Janelle has always been the pragmatic one, the wife who managed money, the one who had her eyes on the bottom line. She saw Coyote Pass as more than an idea. She saw it as an actual investment. She had invested in it, and she really wanted to see her house constructed there. While others lost hope, Janelle clung to the idea that in some way, this earth could yet be the new beginning the family had longed for. But even Janelle's patience had limits. Her marriage to Kody, once founded on collaboration and respect, was coming apart at the seams. By 2022, the strain between them had been boiling over. Money fights turned explosive. Kody complained that Janelle was not loyal enough to him, while Janelle responded that she had given up enough for the family ideal. Perhaps the most agonizing truth for Janelle was seeing Kody invest his time and money in Robyn's home, while she asked repeatedly for financial assistance to begin constructing on her tract of Coyote Pass, and was ignored. For Janelle, it wasn't a matter of love, it was a matter of equality, of vows made and vows broken. Lastly, she was forced to accept the truth. The marriage was not working anymore. Janelle broke up with Kody in late 2022. She was different from Christine, however, in that she was not willing to give up on her investment in Coyote Pass. She wanted answers. She wanted what she had been promised, and she was not going to give it up so easily. Then there was Meri Brown, Kody's very first wife. Meri's story is perhaps the most heartbreaking of them all. Once upon a time, she was the legal wife, the woman who started this entire journey with Kody. But over the years, their relationship withered. After Kody divorced Meri in 2014 to legally marry Robyn, their bond never recovered. For almost a decade, Meri remained on the periphery. She remained bound to the family in name, but was already emotionally drifting away. In 2022, the inevitable occurred. Meri and Kody publicly announced what everyone had long expected. Their spiritual marriage was dissolved. But even Meri's quiet exit left behind a complicated question. What about her stake in Coyote Pass? She too had been part of the purchase. She too had a claim. And just like Christine and Janelle, she wasn't going to disappear without being accounted for. And so here we were, at the end of 2022, Kody Brown's grand vision of one large, harmonious family living under one roof on Coyote Pass had utterly disintegrated. Christine was gone, Janelle was estranged, and Meri had finally closed the door on her marriage. Only one wife remained standing by Kody's side, Robyn. But the land? There was still the land. Acres of vacant property, millions of dollars worth, just sitting around. And rather than being the basis of family harmony, it had become the nexus of a judicial tempest. Freedom for Christine and walking away. For Janelle, the land meant equity and the struggle for what she was due. For Meri, it was an open thread that needed to be closed. And for Kody, Coyote Pass was no longer a dream, but a battlefield. This is where the story of family bonds shifts into the story of courtroom drama. No longer was it about love or even unity. Now it was about ownership, contracts, investments, and the cold reality of dividing assets. The family who used to vow on television that they would live next to each other forever was now in a tug of war about who gets what and how much it's worth. And after the dust from their emotional breakups had settled, one thing became clear. The battle for Coyote Pass was only just starting. This is where the plot turned sharply. Coyote Pass is no longer about family. It's not even about a dream anymore. It's about money. Big money. The property that was once a symbol of oneness is now worth millions. A few large tracts, lying idle in Flagstaff, Arizona, ready to be built upon, are potentially capable of defining the Brown family's financial future. But who gets to define it? Who enjoys the proceeds? And who remains behind? That's where the legal tempest starts. When the Browns bought Coyote Pass years ago, in 2018, it was owned by multiple people as a group. It was divided among Kody and his wives. Different parcels were given names, and every wife felt she had a stake in the dream. But following the breakup and divorces, that neat picture got dirty. Very dirty. Christine was the first to formally leave Kody in 2021. And with that action came a massive question. Does she still own half of Coyote Pass? She had, after all, invested in the land. Her name was connected to some of the legal documents, and she had every right to be owed her portion of the property. Christine wasn't afraid to speak up about it either. She told him she wanted legal certainty. Giving up on Kody didn't mean giving up on money she had contributed pouring into the land. Then there was Janelle. She had been the most outspoken wife about actually constructing something on the land for years. She envisioned building a house, settling down in Flagstaff once and for all, after all those years of wandering around. But when she divorced Kody in 2022, matters became more complex. While Christine was willing to leave the land behind if she was able to get her half, Janelle didn't want to sell. She wanted to keep it. She wanted her share of Coyote Pass, and she was not going to let Kody or anybody else chase her out. And that's where things got particularly tight. Kody confessed, more than once, that he'd considered cutting Janelle out of the property. He said it outright, as if deleting her claim was something he could just do. But legally it is not that easy. Janelle had a stake to defend, and she wasn't afraid to do just that. And then of course there's Meri. Her relationship with Kody had been fading for over a decade. By 2022, the two officially confirmed they were no longer spiritually married. But the land? That was another matter. Meri's name was tied into the ownership papers as well. Even though she wasn't vocal or aggressive like Christine and Janelle, she still had legal weight in the fight. The question on everyone's lips was, would Meri fight for her peace or back down quietly? For Kody, this added yet another uncertainty. For even if Meri didn't insist on her portion, the courts could still view her as an equal stakeholder in the property division. Along the way, Robyn ended up in the most curious position. As Kody's sole remaining wife and his legally wedded spouse, her name meant more in the ownership equation. Robyn would constantly complain that she never wanted the drama surrounding Coyote Pass. She yearned for peace, she desired family harmony, and she desired the dream to succeed. But now, whether she liked it or not, she was right in the middle of the tempest. Economically, Robyn and Kody had already gone ahead and secured their portion. It had been reported that they had settled a significant loan associated with the property that placed them in a better position than the other wives, at least on paper. Emotionally, though, it made matters worse. To Janelle, Christine, and even Meri, it was like favoritism again. Kody had decided to lock down the property with Robyn, and the rest were left not knowing their own futures. As tensions mounted, the Browns knew they couldn't resolve this as a family anymore. Lawyers were called in, and the questions came quickly. Who actually owns what? Does Christine receive a payoff for her share? Although she exited, will Janelle be able to hold on to her share, or will Kody force her out? And Meri, will she quietly cash out, or join the lawsuit with her name on it? Each of these questions had massive financial implications. With millions at stake, no one wanted to leave with nothing. Behind the courtroom arguments lay hurtful personal wounds. The wives accused Kody of favoritism, claiming he always placed Robyn first. Promises broken were exposed. There were hints of financial manipulation, of backroom deals, of choices that left some wives in the cold. The ground that was supposed to be a dream had become a tool. Both sides used it as evidence of betrayal. Every accusation became a reminder of years of pain. Coyote Pass is not just dirt and desert. It's the emblem of everything the Browns constructed together, and everything that's come apart. If sold, the proceeds could transform lives. If divided, the ownership will be the ultimate answer to who really counted in the Brown clan. For Christine, it is about equity. For Janelle, it is about remaining with the dream she invested in. For Meri, it is about whether or not she has a seat at the table anymore. And for Robyn, it is about protecting the future she and Kody still share. But for Kody, this fight is about more than money. It's about legacy, about control, and about whether the family that he once headed can ever sever itself once and for all from him. So, where does this leave the Brown family today? The Coyote Pass showdown is now more than a land feud. To viewers, to critics, and even to the Browns themselves, it's the biggest representation of how Kody Brown's painstakingly built vision of one big united family has fallen apart. What was intended as a legacy, something his children, grandchildren, and generations to come could gaze back upon with pride, now hangs as an open sore for the whole world to see. When the family bought the property back in 2018, Kody would discuss it with nearly a preacher's fervor. He spoke of a family compound, houses constructed side by side, wives and children growing up as neighbors, all connected to the same land. Yet on this soil has emerged the battleground for some of the most contentious family wars in sister wives history. Kody Brown was the first one to escape, and in some ways, she is the representation of freedom in the history of the family. Fans applauded when she finally gathered her belongings and informed Kody that she was finished with being an afterthought. Kody battled for years to maintain her position in the family, but when she saw her happiness continuing to drift further and further away, she chose herself. Her choice to depart also meant leaving Coyote Pass in her wake. And yet Kody didn't leave with nothing. She struggled to define her claim to the land, ensuring that her years of investment and work wouldn't vanish into thin air. That she went on to marry David Woolley again and build a new loving and blended family only adds another twist to the melodrama. She left Kody, Robyn, and all the mess of the land behind, but her ghost continues to haunt the paperwork, reminding everyone that she once had a share in the dream. Janelle's experience is not the same. Down-to-earth, level-headed, and frequently the wife problem solver, she genuinely wanted to make something of Coyote Pass. Unlike Kody, who had lost hope in the vision, Janelle held on to the hope that perhaps, just perhaps, the family could turn things around. She even spent a stint camping in an RV on the land, attempting to show that she was in earnest about bringing the dry dirt into reality. But her marriage to Kody disintegrated in 2022, primarily due to money and trust. That was when Coyote Pass became less about optimism and more about fairness for her. She had put in the money, she had waited, and she believed. So when the marriage was over, she wasn't going to quietly slip away like Kody. To Janelle, the property isn't mere acres of earth, it's her rightful inheritance, something she's not going to let slip away. And viewers know Janelle isn't a person who gives up when she senses she's been swindled. Then there's Meri, Kody's first wife, and until recently, the unobtrusive outsider in the family. Her marriage to Kody had been on the rocks for over a decade, long before Coyote Pass became a problem. By 2022, the two finally acknowledged that their spiritual marriage was over. For Meri, her role in Coyote Pass is complicated. She's not as outspoken or confrontational as Janelle or Kody, but her name is on the ownership documents. That makes her part of the puzzle, whether she likes it or not. The great question looming over her narrative is, will she cash out and claim her share, or will she hold on, either because she is standing on principle or because she wants to make a statement? Meri's quiet strength has surprised fans before, and in the middle of this land battle, she remains a wild card. And last but not least, there's Robyn, the sole wife remaining with Kody. To most fans, Robyn is the most divisive member of the Brown family. Kody's obvious favoritism toward her was a major contributor to the breakdown of his other marriages. She has stated she never desired the land conflict, yet here she is in the middle of it. Because she's the only legal wife, her position in the fight is stronger than Kody's, Janelle's, or Meri's. She and Kody paid off a large portion of the property loan, which gives them leverage. But Robyn's tears, her frustrations, and her repeated assertions that she just wanted family togetherness are not as convincing for fans who view her as the one who got it all. Kody's affection, his legal union, and quite possibly the largest chunk of Coyote Pass. At its center is Kody himself. Once a proud four-wife husband and dad to 18 kids, he now finds himself to defend a dream that barely exists. His family unity vision lies in tatters. The land he imagined would represent unity now serves as the ultimate symbol of division. Kody is left to battle in courtrooms and the court of public opinion. His leadership as the head of the family is lost. His marriages to 3 of his wives are irreparably damaged, and his relationship to his children is strained. All that is left to him are Robyn and a dry patch of Arizona land that everyone else would love to stake their claim on. So what's next? That is the million-dollar question, literally. Will the land be sold at last, dividing the proceeds among all of them? That's a possibility, but that takes agreements, signatures, and faith, all of which the Browns are in short supply these days. Will Kody and Robyn attempt to hold onto it for themselves, constructing their dream residence while the rest of the family gets nothing? That's also a possibility. They've always framed themselves as the couple most dedicated to the land. Or will the courts intervene, compelling a final legal ruling? That appears more and more likely. With attorneys already on the scene, and arguments getting hot, the fate of Coyote Pass may ultimately be determined not by family gatherings and visions of harmony, but by judges and lawyers in court. For its fans, Coyote Pass is not about money, dirt, or houses. It's about broken promises, favoritism, betrayal, and the disintegration of a family once hailed as a rare example of plural marriage in contemporary America. Christine is happy in a new marriage. Janelle is holding fast, refusing to let go of what she feels is rightfully hers. Meri is reclaiming her independence, though her destiny with Coyote Pass remains unclear. And Kody, he's hanging on to a fantasy that now only he and Robyn share. One thing is certain, what was once referred to as the family's legacy is now their greatest battleground. And that, my friends, is the tragic turn of the Coyote Pass tale. A dream that started in love and hope, now in the balance of attorneys, title deeds, and lost faith.